International trade is shaped by tariffs, taxes on imports, and by trade blocs, alliances that lower barriers between member countries. Tariffs, a hallmark of protectionism, make foreign goods pricier, aiming to protect local industries but often raising costs for consumers and sparking trade wars. In contrast, trade blocs like the European Union and the expanding BRICS group promote cooperation, creating vast markets and reducing economic friction. The clash between protectionism, as seen in recent US policies, and the collaborative approach of blocs like BRICS is reshaping global economics. Aggressive tariffs by major powers are pushing allies to seek new partnerships, fracturing old alliances, and driving a global realignment. The US-centric system is being challenged not just by rivals, but by longtime friends reconsidering their economic dependencies. As countries diversify their relationships, economic power is dispersing and the world is moving toward a more unpredictable, multipolar future. The United States has now turned its formidable economic arsenal on Japan, a nation long considered a crucial ally and partner in the post-war order. This move marks a dramatic escalation in economic tensions between the two countries, sending shockwaves through diplomatic and business circles alike. The US has imposed a sweeping 25% tariff on all Japanese imports, a measure that affects everything from cars and electronics to everyday consumer goods. The scale and suddenness of this action have left Japanese exporters reeling. This isn't negotiation, it's economic coercion, treating Japan less as a trusted partner and more as a tributary state expected to comply with Washington's demands. Beyond tariffs, Japan is pressured into a lopsided deal. $550 billion invested in the US, with Washington retaining control over the funds and Japan receiving only a fraction of the profits. This arrangement leaves Japan with little say over its own investments. The strategy, as described by economists like Michael Hudson, is to force allies to deindustrialize or relocate their industries to US soil, hollowing out their own manufacturing base in the process. Japanese companies now face a stark choice: move their factories and jobs to America, uprooting decades of industrial development, or risk losing access to their single largest and most lucrative market, a prospect that could devastate entire sectors of the Japanese economy. This upends Japan's post-war economic model, which was built on manufacturing excellence and robust exports to the US, fueling decades of growth and prosperity. The new policies threaten the very viability of Japanese industry, putting jobs, communities, and the nation's economic future at risk. What was once a partnership is now shifting toward dependency, as Japan is forced to adapt to a new, harsher reality. The message from Washington is unmistakable. Japan's role is now to subsidize America's economic revival, no matter the cost to its own prosperity or independence. Washington's demands have sparked outrage in Japan, igniting a wave of protests and public dissent across the nation. The forced investment deal is widely seen as a national humiliation, a blow to Japan's pride and sovereignty. Public fury and media criticism quickly turned into a political crisis, toppling Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba, who resigned after signing the deal. His resignation marked a significant turning point in Japanese politics. The government's capitulation exposed a deep rift between leaders trying to appease the US and a public unwilling to accept subservience. This division has only grown more pronounced. Even before the agreement, officials like trade negotiator Ryosei Akazawa warned against harming vital sectors, but internal resistance was overwhelmed by external pressures. The fallout has emboldened nationalist voices and calls for a more independent foreign policy, with many advocating for a stronger stance against foreign influence. The crisis has forced Japan to question its alliance with the US and consider new directions, potentially reshaping its future diplomatic strategies. The sense of betrayal is driving a shift in political attitudes, making future leaders more likely to seek diversified partnerships and reduce dependency on any single nation. Japan's political landscape is fundamentally changed, with independence and resilience now at the forefront of national debate. The nation stands at a crossroads, contemplating its path forward. As the US turns inward, the BRICS Bloc is rising as a powerful alternative, expanding to include new members and partners across the global south. With over half the world's population and a massive share of global economic output, BRICS is now a true counterweight to the Western-led G7. BRICS operates on consensus and mutual respect, not hierarchy, offering a more balanced international order. Its new development bank funds infrastructure without the political strings attached by the IMF or World Bank. The bloc is building its own financial systems, promoting trade in national currencies and bypassing US-dominated networks. For countries facing US pressure, BRICS offers a path to economic security outside Washington's orbit. Japan and others see in BRICS a chance to escape dependency and join a more equitable global system. The appeal is clear: a future where economic partnerships are based on mutual benefit, not coercion. Facing tariffs and an unpopular investment deal, Japan is rethinking its US-centric economic strategy. The country is pivoting toward Asia and the BRICS bloc, seeking growth in markets free from US political pressure. Japanese firms are redirecting trade and investment to China and other BRICS members, following commercial logic and necessity. This shift is both economic and strategic, aimed at regaining autonomy in foreign policy. By engaging with BRICS and regional powers, Japan gains leverage and reduces its vulnerability to US demands. The BRICS model of win-win cooperation is attractive to Japan, which values innovation and high-quality manufacturing. Partnering with dynamic economies in Asia, Africa, and Latin America offers new opportunities for growth. Japan is charting a future as a respected partner, not a subordinate in someone else's economic revival. Japan isn't alone. US trade pressure is hitting other allies hard. South Korea faces similar tariffs and forced investments, plus humiliating incidents like ICE raids on Korean factories in the US. These actions have shaken Seoul's trust and pushed it to strengthen ties with China and BRICS. The European Union too has been forced into accepting tariffs and massive investments in the US, exposing its dependence on American power. EU officials admit they had little choice, fueling calls for greater, strategic, Across the board, US allies are rethinking their relationships, seeing the old bargains as broken. The US is acting more like an imperial power than a leader of alliances, driving partners to seek alternatives. The result: a growing alignment among former US allies, all looking to diversify and survive in a shifting global order. The world is at a pivotal turning point, as US trade policies and shifting alliances accelerate the decline of the old global order that has dominated for decades. The established rules and relationships that once seemed unshakable are now being challenged on every front, forcing nations to reconsider their positions and priorities. Treating long-standing allies as adversaries is backfiring, pushing them to seek out new partnerships and build alternative systems that bypass traditional power centers. This shift is not just about economics, it's about trust, influence, and the future shape of global cooperation. For Japan, the choice is stark and more urgent than ever: cling to a risky, increasingly unpredictable alliance, or embrace new opportunities with BRICS nations and Asian neighbors who offer fresh avenues for growth and stability. The global landscape is rapidly splitting into two distinct spheres: a US-led bloc held together by economic pressure and coercion, and a BRICS-led bloc united by a shared desire for equity, multipolarity, and a more balanced world order. Countries like Japan, South Korea, and the EU now find themselves caught in the middle, navigating a complex web of alliances and forced to adapt quickly to this new and uncertain reality. Their pivot toward BRICS and other emerging powers is a rational, pragmatic response to the shifting winds of US policy, not a betrayal of old friendships, but a necessary step for survival and prosperity. Trump's trade gambit may ultimately be remembered not for restoring American dominance, but for inadvertently uniting much of the world against it, sparking a wave of collaboration that transcends old boundaries. The attempt to isolate rivals and squeeze allies is, paradoxically, fostering unprecedented cooperation among the global South, and even among disillusioned Western partners, who are now seeking new ways to work together. The global economic map is being redrawn before our eyes, and Japan, like many others, must now chart a more independent, resilient course, one that secures its future in a world where old certainties no longer apply.